Is Elden Ring the easiest game in SoulsBourne history? Now, this is a question that I want you guys to have an opinion on. I do want to know your opinions, and in my opinion, I do rank it as at least one of the easiest. Because me playing all the Souls games, I didn't play Demon Souls at launch, didn't have a PS3, but I ended up playing it later when I think it was like 2 years later, PS4, because like I said, I didn't have it the entirety of that generation. I owned an Xbox 360 like 2 years into it, or 2 years before the Xbox One and the PS4 came out. But I finally got to play it when, by the time I got a PS4, I managed to play my friend's PS3, and he had Demon Souls, and I fell in love with that because I did play Dark Souls prior. And I remember Dark Souls being hard for me because it was definitely a new game that I've never played before. And I was like, whoa, this has a difficulty to it that I didn't expect. But when I played Elden Ring, I didn't recall, because normally unless you're new, which not even if you're new, you have this triumphant feeling when you beat a boss that takes you a while. And the thing is, with Elden Ring, you have a ton of new players because of the accessibleness that this game has, and it does have a difficulty turn to it. But I'm seeing so many different content creators and streamers that are playing this game, and obviously, they're going to struggle. They're going to have trouble in certain bosses, and the consensus with Elden Ring is that Malenia is the hardest boss in SoulsBourne history. Now, I kind of disagree, and I've seen other people disagree as well, but other people disagreeing, I did see they're just talking about cheese. If you come into a Souls game with the idea of looking up a build to cheese the boss, you're not getting the same experience that I would want you to get out of it. But if that's how you have fun, do you? It's all good. But I do think Malenia is up there. I don't think she's the hardest though. But one thing that I wish happened is that after people play Elden Ring, after all these newcomers play Elden Ring, they'll go play some of the other games, because they're gonna fight Malenia, I don't know why I keep messing up her name. I pronounce it differently like every 3 times I say it. But every time that people are going to play Elden Ring, they're going to think of her now. And that's cool because she was an awesome boss. But I just don't think she was that hard. And I wish people would go back and play all the other games. Now that's saying something, because obviously Demon Souls got a remake, but Dark Souls got a remaster, but it's still clunky. It's not going to feel the same. Dark Souls 2 is kind of the same way. Dark Souls 3 feels good in my opinion. Bloodborne is great, has a frame rate issue, but I think there's going to be a PS5 version of it coming. I think rumors had it. I'm not entirely sure. Then you got Sekiro that people could play too. And in my opinion, a lot of those games are a lot harder than Elden Ring. Because like I said, one of the things that you get from Souls games is just the fact of having that triumphant feeling when you beat a boss that you were stuck on. And I didn't really get too much of that in my entire playthrough and a New Game Plus playthrough of Elden Ring. I was not stuck on Malenia as much as other people, mainly because I took out a shield. I thought that would be the smarter plan for me, because I seen a katana that she had. Well, I seen just like a straight sword, that's what I thought it was, and I couldn't figure out the timing for a flurry attack. So I was just like, alright, let me just bring out a shield and see how that does. And you bring out a great shield, and it immediately makes that fight insanely easy. And it's not even really cheese, because you still have to attack her opening. But when she goes to do certain attacks that you might struggle in rolling out of, just bring out that shield and makes it a ton easier. But I don't remember a boss other than the Valiant Gargoyles. That's the only one that really gave me some trouble. And even the Godskin Duo, kind of, but I don't know, I wouldn't consider those that hard, because when we start comparing bosses, it starts getting a little bit different, because having played all of them, all these Souls games, well, SoulsBourne games, thinking back to Malenia, I'm like, there's some bosses in previous Souls games that I would say is a teeny bit harder. And what I would love to see is somehow people made a save to where they could have all these newcomers go back and try some of these bosses out for size for me personally. Like for instance, you got Manus, Father of the Abyss in Dark Souls 1, the DLC that came out. That was a boss that I enjoyed a lot. But when I first got there, given Dark Souls 1 kind of had a charm to it in that it didn't really play that great. It was very clunky, but I mean, I personally enjoyed it. But I think Manus was a lot harder than a lot of these bosses, not harder than Millennia. So I'm definitely not going to put Dark Souls. And I don't know though, like the Manus I would say is harder than everyone else other than Millennia, in my opinion. Now, I'm not going to put one optional boss in Elden Ring and say that it's harder over Dark Souls, because we have Ornstein and Smo too, or I heard Small. So I mean, you have the iconic double battle where you're in there and you're getting ganked from the beginning. You got Ornstein, you got Smo, and you know, given they didn't attack together, as I mean, that's kind of like the SoulsBourne thing where you'll see two, and sometimes one will just stay idle a little bit. They won't attack you as much, and that's kind of how it was. But that's the iconic one. I would say that's also just as hard as, I'd say 95% of the bosses. I don't think it's harder than the Valiant Gargoyles, but like the majority of the bosses in Elden Ring I thought were decently easy. But this is why this is opinion based. I want to know your guys' opinion on this, because in my opinion, you know, with Millennia, you also have like Dark Souls 3, you have Slave Knight Gale. I thought he was decently hard, but you also have the Nameless King in that same game. But to add on to Dark Souls 3, you also had, I believe this was in the DLC, correct me if I'm wrong, but you also had Sister Fried and Father, I kind of forgot how to say his name, Ariandel, I think. But you had that boss fight that was, I believe, a 3-phase boss fight. And I think that boss right there is harder than Millennia. So I would put Dark Souls 3 also above Elden Ring. Because, I mean, I just remember having trouble on that boss. Because, I mean, one, you have limited amount of Estus. And they do a ton of damage. It's a 3-phase. Given, obviously, with every boss in any game, at the end of the day, if you learn the patterns, you will win the game. That's just how it is. You learn the patterns, you win the game. That's why people are able to beat it on Soul Level 1. And that's not saying Elden Ring is a pushover game. That is not. It was not a walk in the park for me. I don't know how many deaths I had, mainly because I'm not a content creator in that aspect. I didn't really do a Let's Play type thing. So I don't know how many deaths I had total in the game. But I do think other SoulsBourne games were a lot harder. I mean, even in Bloodborne, you had the Orphan of Kos. That's all I need to say. I think that is just as hard as Millennia, in my opinion. Because there's bosses where, I'm just like Millennia, you cannot make mistakes. But there's the thing about Elden Ring is, by the time you get to Millennia, for the majority of people, you are already beefy. You're already beefy because at this point in the game, that's probably around the last thing you're going to do. And you're as beefy as you can be. And Bloodborne, Dark Souls, Sekiro, all that, you're not exactly over leveled unless that's how you play. I mean, some people play like that and that's fine. But, and I feel like in these games, you'll know that you're under leveled when you get there. You'll know that, oh boy, this is going to be one of them bosses. But then Millennia, it always felt like you were there. Like all you had to do was, oh, I just need to learn this attack. Oh, I just need to learn this attack. Like phase 1, all you need to do is honestly just dodge her flurry and then you're good. Phase 2, dodge her dive and explosion and you're good. And her flurry, I guess. But like, you already learned that from phase 1. After that, you're good. But with the Orphan of Kos, it's trial and error. And again, you also learn their moves. But I just feel like in previous Souls games, they had more of a move set. You know, they had more unpredictability. And I felt like I wasn't getting that from Elden Ring as much difficulty wise. And that's the reason why it's harder to say that Elden Ring was hard. But the reason why I think everyone thinks that it's, you know, one of the harder games in the Souls series is because it's their first in the Souls series. Not everyone. And this is just my opinion. Like I said, I want to know where you guys are going to rank it. We'll do my ranking at the end of this video, which we're close. But them having some of these bosses, the hardest bosses in SoulsBourne history, is definitely, I think, almost like a kind of thrown out there statement. because I don't think Millennia is as hard as other bosses, but it's just the fact that one, we learn to forget. It's literally been years since I played the first 3 Dark Souls as well as Demon Souls. Even though Demon Souls, we're not going to talk about that because I think that game was very easy, in my opinion. I do almost think that I'd be making a video on that if that game was just coming out for the first time ever, but it's not. We're talking about Elden Ring now. But I just think since it's a lot of people's first SoulsBourne game is Elden Ring, and there are a lot of people that also haven't played some of the other ones, that might be why we're throwing out the hardest bosses, but I personally disagree. But let me try to think of a ranking. Now, it's hard to put anything and difficulty wise under Demon Souls, because I don't think Demon Souls really had that kind of hard difficulty because it was the first one, and then the remake wasn't harder. It was just a remake. It was a 1-to-1 remake, and it was great. They did add like one little thing where you could find these ceramic coins that would give you, I think, an armor set, but I mean, you know, that's not adding into anything like difficulty wise to the game, and that's maybe not why people play Souls games. I mean, Elden Ring is still my top, I would almost say my favorite SoulsBourne game in the series, but we're talking about difficulty. And I would put probably in the last spot, I would put Demon Souls and then Elden Ring. You have to, in my opinion, because after that, then I would say Dark Souls 2, because I don't remember them being, other than like DLC stuff, I don't remember anything being in that game that was necessarily hard. Now this is where it gets interesting though, because when we count DLCs, you had Manus and Calamite in Dark Souls 1, but was that harder when you added the DLC of Dark Souls 3? Because there was some hard bosses in Dark Souls 3, but without DLC, you're really just looking at the Nameless King being difficult. And even then, you know, was he that hard? Not really. I mean, he was hard, don't get me wrong, but he was hard, but then the DLC is what really just kicked it into high gear, because there's a lot of DLC bosses that were just nuts for no reason. So I think I'd put Dark Souls 3 over Dark Souls, so it would go Demon Souls, Elden Ring, Dark Souls 2, Dark Souls, then Dark Souls 3, then Sekiro and Bloodborne are almost interchangeable in my head, just because Sekiro was kind of hard just because the mechanics were different. But was it harder than the bosses in Bloodborne? And was Bloodborne hard? I'm trying to think. Well, see, it gets a little bit hard. It's easier to name the easiest Souls game, but it's harder to name the hardest Souls game, or SoulsBourne game. But I feel like Bloodborne, it had a few bosses, but the Orphan of Kos was really that's the pinnacle, the boss that you're going to know playing that game. So do I put that over? I mean, Sekiro didn't really have much. I mean, it had some for sure, because I mean, obviously the go-to is the Guardian Ape, but I feel like people only know of that from videos, and that's why that's always thrown out there for that being the hardest boss. But I feel like the hardest boss in there for me personally was like the Corrupted Monk. I think was one of them. We got, I mean, obviously Genichiro definitely was there. I mean, yeah, we gotta put, I feel like, yeah, Bloodborne's in a good spot where it's right below the hardest in Sekiro, because there is some bosses for sure that I would put up to par with the Orphan of Kos, but not exactly as hard. It's there, but Genichiro was something. The Guardian Ape was iconic for being hard, and I remember watching so many videos where people were not ready for his second phase and they just got absolutely dismantled. And some people quit the game after that, and I don't blame them. But yeah, I think that's a good rating. I mean, for the title of the video, I probably should put Elden Ring, Demon Souls, then Dark Souls 2, then Dark Souls, then Dark Souls 3, then Bloodborne, then Sekiro. But for my opinion, I'll probably put Demon Souls, Elden Ring, Dark Souls 2, Dark Souls 3, and then Bloodborne and Sekiro. I think that's a decent difficulty tier list in my opinion. Now let me know your thoughts down below. What's your tier list? That's one thing that I would really love to know. What is your tier list on most difficult SoulsBourne games in the series, and where do you rank Elden Ring in this? Because I definitely rank it down below, but the thing is, no matter where you rank these games, you give it to a newcomer, they're going to struggle on Demon Souls, and that's the fun of it. Everyone's going to struggle on these games. They're going to have that boss that just hits a wall where you're like, oh my, this is difficult. But then you learn them. You either learn them, you level up, you cheese them. That's really the three-pronged thing where it's like one of these are going to work to your advantage, and it's just what type of player are you? Because, I mean, there's no right or wrong way to play it. I think everyone gets a decent experience no matter how they play. And, I mean, after playing these Souls games for let alone, I think, what, 12 years now? I believe, because I started in 2011, so about 11 years, I guess, just about, because like I said, I didn't get to play Demon Souls right away, but it's been a fun time, and Elden Ring is definitely in my top, definitely near the top, and as the time goes on, if we get some DLC or something to this, I mean, hey, that might push it even higher. I mean, it's already at a high point right now. Don't really enjoy the PvP aspect of it just because there's too many broken things in the game. That goes with every Dark Souls, you know, SoulsBourne game. And PvP aspects, there's always going to be broken stuff in the beginning. You don't really get to the true PvP until almost months after, in my opinion, once they actually fix a lot of things. Because people, if I say this, Wrath of Gods, dead angling, I mean, that's pretty much it. Backstab glitches where, I mean, everyone knows these things just from PvP. You'll remember these terms. I feel like, well, this is definitely potential to be a great PvP game, but it's just, they need to fix some things. But yeah, I hope you guys did enjoy this video. If you did, leave a like, subscribe, and you guys know the drill. I will see you guys later.